Welcome to this week's episode of the Lido Loop. I am your host, Jack McCraw. With me, as always, my good friend, Jesse Barboza. How we doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Tell us what's on the show today.
We're going to be doing a recap of 2025 and the things to look forward to in the 2026.
Yeah, there was some major cruise news out there and some upcoming rumors that Jesse and I are going to be discussing. That, and we look back at our favorite theme park memories and moments from 2025 as well. That's all coming up on this week's episode of the Lido Loop. Before we get into the biggest storylines of 2025, we like to start every episode with the cruise news of the week. So, Jesse, what's the latest and greatest in the cruise world?
So yeah, this week a 4-year-old actually fell off the dock at Celebration Key.
That is not terribly surprising considering there's no perimeter around where the ships dock and from where you get off the boat onto the dock.
Yeah, when we went there this year, I noticed that there's no rope. There's just a painted yellow line that anyone could cross. So if you're not holding on to your little kids, they can easily wander off and fall into it. Luckily, the mom jumped overboard to get her 4-year-old, and then Carnival employees did help them out of the water afterwards, and everyone was safe afterwards.
That's why they have those, life jackets and life buoys on standby for incidents like that. Luckily, like you said, no one was hurt. It's a scary moment for sure, but you just more protection needs to happen, especially on those docks with no barriers.
And then federal judge have now blocked the new tax hike for Hawaii that they plan on placing on cruise ships, which would have made the tax to 10%. They plan on spending the money on global warming and other stuff in order to prevent climate change.
I remember you and I discussing a tax in Mexico that could have eventually led to cruises no longer going to certain ports like Cozumel and Costa Maya.
Yeah, they significantly reduced the tax, so in the next, I think, like 4 or 5 years, it will be at full, and unless they change it again. But the taxes in Mexico was supposedly going to the Mexican military instead of any type of port-related expense.
So one of the biggest storylines in the cruise world last year was the opening of Celebration Key and their beautiful private island.
It's more like a destination, not a private island, but everyone calls it island.
Yeah, I was going to say, you and I definitely have some opinions on Celebration Key, but tell me, how was your experience when you went to Celebration Key, and could you see more cruises going to Celebration Key in the future?
So Celebration Key was beautiful. Unfortunately, the day we went, it was raining and it was definitely cold on top of that slide.
I was going to say, were you more of a Flash Flamingo or a Mach 3 Marlin kind of guy?
Definitely Flash Flamingo. I just thought it was a lot more fun.
I kind of wanted to do the slides. I think I might have chickened out at the end, but if I ever go to Celebration Key again, I got to be going down those slides. But that lagoon was amazing. You were right. It was a very cloudy, overcast day, and it really rained on and off. So wasn't the best experience to go to Celebration Key, but I would definitely go back, especially on a nice carnival ship like we went on.
Yeah, and honestly, the beach though, I mean, their beaches were really long. There's plenty of places to sit and enjoy the weather and the sand, the water, everything. But one thing that no one mentioned was the fact that there's huge rocks that are like in the water. Even when you walk out farther, it isn't. And but once you go about 10 feet in, there's no more rocks after that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I am the guilty party of going out in the water with no barefoot and all and just kicking a big old rock. I would definitely wear some sort of foot protection when visiting Celebration Key. And with the success that Carnival has had thus far in Celebration Key, could you see other ships going to Celebration Key?
Yeah, so currently the port technically holds 2 ships, and by 2026 they're expecting to have a pier extension. They're actually spending like $100 million for this pier extension, and they're expecting by 2028 to hold additional 4 million passengers throughout the year.
4 million is a giant number. And when you and I were on the island, there is a lot of land around the not only the port but the lagoon as well. The area is already massive as it is that you need a golf cart to get from point A to point B at some places. But do you see that expanding further? Because it looks like there's a lot of undeveloped land around that port.
Oh yeah, yeah. Carnival owns a lot more of that land around it, and they're expecting it to even grow bigger from there. They haven't really released any details on exactly what they are. I'm hoping that there's going to be more water park theme, kind of like Royal Caribbean does on their private destinations.
I've seen the giant slide at Royal Caribbean. I was gonna say we need more than just the two water slides. The lagoon itself is incredibly nice, but you know what else they should have? They need more restaurant options because you and I weren't too fond of the food. Tell me what your thoughts on about that.
Yeah, so how Carnival works is they give you one free meal, and it doesn't even include a drink. That to me, that's not really a meal if it doesn't include a drink. But so I tried the chicken strips, and honestly, it felt like it was any regular chicken strips you get from a restaurant. Nothing fancy. It wasn't great at all, honestly. It was kind of cold because they kind of put it out. They don't. It's already made. Jesus, this is a pick up and go type of item.
Yeah, they were under a heating lamp for a while. I had a hot dog, and let's just say it's nothing like a hot dog here at an Astros game.
And I definitely didn't notice that there were bees and stuff like that, which you can't really control that. But I've heard other people talk about the bees, and it was definitely there when we were there.
I remember the bees too, but funny enough, I got closer to the water and the bees went away. Sure, I had to walk a little bit from the food stands in the back to the pool, kind of in the middle of the resort, but it was certainly something that I had to look out for as well. What do you think of more cruise lines going to private destinations now?
So honestly, when you're at these private destinations, it feels like you're just at a resort pretty much. It doesn't feel like you're in the Bahamas when you're there. Yes, I know they do have these Bahama dances that they got going on, and they got Bohemian people there that are working the slides and all the ports, but it just feels like any other American private destination.
That was honestly one of my bigger complaints too with Celebration Key. Don't get me wrong, I thought it was beautiful, I thought it was great, but it didn't feel like we were in another country. Like when we went to Cozumel, you could definitely tell we were in Cozumel, and I've been to other places like Belize, Cayman Islands, Jamaica. You definitely know that you're not in America. Celebration Key definitely felt like we were at a American cruise port that just happened to be in the Bahamas.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct.
Some of the other news in the cruise industry, though, is that a new cruise line came to Galveston. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, so MSC has officially entered the Galveston market. I think that the new terminal looks beautiful, and I actually am going to be having a selling coming out real soon.
We're going to go more in depth in a future episode about your upcoming MSC trip, but what are some of the things you're most looking forward to on your new cruise adventure?
Yeah, so actually, I'm glad MSC entered the Galveston market. I'm actually expecting that the cruise lines to reduce prices because I don't know why, but Galveston prices to go on cruises are pretty much through the roof. When you compare it to Miami and Port Canaveral prices, they're a lot more expensive.
I would agree. I went on a cruise out of Port Canaveral that was a total of $400 for an ocean view room. You really can't get that in Galveston. I get it. It was a shorter cruise as well because Galveston really only does 4-day cruises. But MSC entering the market could certainly be a new big player in Galveston. And I'm looking forward to that review as well.
Absolutely. I think that MSC prices are way cheaper. Like our cruise was like $1,700, and that included a drink package and Wi-Fi.
Now, here is the most important question. How does the casino look compared to Carnival?
Well, I guess we'll find out. But it looked fantastic from the videos I've watched.
Hey, as long as they got Buffalo, that's all that matters to us. Buffalo! One of the other big news items from 2025 in the cruise industry was Carnival changing to the VIFP program. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Jesse?
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like Carnivals is really going to be pushing away new people with this new program because they keep changing it, and I don't think Carnival even knows what they want to do with this program, because the new people aren't not going to want to cruise with them because there's no loyalty, unless it's all about how much money you spend, not about how long you've been with them. They're kind of going towards like a more airline and hotel policy when it comes to loyalty program.
It feels more like a pay to play option instead of, hey, thanks for giving us all these years from Carnival. Here's a little bit of loyalty on us. No, it's how much money are you willing to give Carnival so you can go up a tier. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the whole reason they wanted to start this was mainly because they couldn't honor their perks because there was too many platinum and diamond members. And they a couple months ago they just released saying that they are going to be giving those benefits back. So the whole point of that program kind of was obsolete.
With this new change, could you see less people sailing with Carnival and choosing other cruise lines? And are you personally affected by this change as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, I mean, we've only cruised Carnival the past 5 years. Yeah, so we're no longer going to be looking at focusing on loyalty and just focusing on the experience and just trying to have a fun, memorable cruise.
I think with more cruise options, especially, we're based here in Galveston, Royal Caribbean's come in, they're making their cruises cheaper. MSC is already taking up a share of the Galveston ports as well. There's going to be more options than just Carnival. And I think that people are going to start to realize that, well, if they're not going to be valued and appreciated with their rewards program that Carnival is now offering, just like you said, they could be going to other options.
The numbers show that Carnival actually have sold out two-thirds of the cruise ship, two-thirds of their booking for 2026 already, which is unheard of. So I think that come next year, 2027, after the program starts this coming September, that their bookings are going to be way down, because I've noticed that I have gotten so many emails trying to push the new sellings and trying to get me on board. I've never seen that from Carnival. Every week I'm getting multiple emails about booking and giving drink discounts or giving massive discounts that it seems tempting.
Hey, if I'm all for Carnival giving us a little bit more discounts, especially drink packages, maybe even some free slot play in the casino, I'm all for it. Sign me up for that. Staying in Galveston, though, you did tell me an interesting fact about Galveston. Why don't you let the audience know that same fact as well?
Yeah, so actually Galveston, it may not be the busiest port right now, but it is actually the fastest growing port in America.
I would have not guessed that. With our show being based in Texas, Galveston is the closest port for cruise ships for us. So for us to think that Galveston is up there with some of the busiest ports in the country is almost unheard of at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had definitely felt it. The last time I cruised out of Galveston, the traffic was ridiculous. And I think that they're definitely going to have to figure out what they're going to do with the traffic in order to make it work.
Is there enough land really to expand? Galveston is an island.
There there is enough land, but they just going to have to demolish a lot of old stuff.
They should put it on the other side next to Pleasure Pier. How about that?
If that works. Speaking of the busiest port, what do you think the busiest port in the world is?
My gut says Miami, just because I know Carnival's headquarters are there and they're close to a lot of other Caribbean island destinations, closer than we are in Galveston or other ports in the country.
So yeah, the past year it was Miami, but it has changed recently. Actually, 8.6 million passengers came out of Port Canaveral.
Really? That's very interesting. I mean, I get its proximity close to Orlando. When you and I went, it was not even an hour and a half drive from Orlando to Cape Canaveral. So it's very convenient. The airport from MCO offers a shuttle there too, in case you guys want to fly out to Orlando and go out of Cape Canaveral. My first opinion on Cape Canaveral, it was a lot more organized in Galveston. Did you feel the same way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everything was clean. There was no traffic compared to Galveston traffic. I mean, with a 13% increase compared to 2024, they nailed it. They knew exactly what to expect with the growth. Speaking of Orlando, like you brought up earlier, what do you think about the new Epic Universe that Universal has made?
There have been some, I would say, mixed emotions for Epic Universe. On one side, I heard it's the greatest theme park that's ever been built. On others, hear it's too crowded and it's too hot. There's not enough shade. Now, if that's the worst you have to hear about Epic Universe, you got yourself a pretty good park. And I personally have not been there yet, but all the talk about Epic Universe has been that this is a game changing park. The 5 worlds that they have are the most immersive worlds in a theme park. And I think that that is a good way to segue into our top 3 storylines from 2025 in the theme park world. And certainly at number one is the opening of Epic Universe, because it is the biggest theme park to open in Orlando since Islands of Adventure in 1999. So it's been a minute since Orlando's gotten a brand new, not just theme park, not just world or expansion, but a whole new theme park. Because sure, we've seen Galaxy's Edge and Avatar Land as a response to Harry Potter World at Universal Studios. And to some extent, Disney has been trying to compete with Universal, but now Universal has another ace up their sleeve in the Orlando market and Epic Universe. And with their continuous growth, you and I being from Texas, they're about to open a theme park in Frisco sometime in summer of 2026. So the world is just growing for Universal.
Yeah, I think that the park that they're going to open in here in Texas, unfortunately, is just for younger kids. But I'm still excited for the new park.
My hope is that they are going to test the market in Texas and realize this is a good market, and we're going to put an actual Universal Studios park. It doesn't even have to be in Texas. It could be here in the Houston area like you and I are from. But Texas already has Fiesta Texas. They have Six Flags over Texas, 4 elite theme parks that are now all under one umbrella that we are going to talk about in a future episode. But the market is here for Universal, and I think with the opening of Epic Universe, Universal realizes that they can build more parks. They don't have to do the Disney model of only continue to grow the parks they already have.
But Epic Universe is not the newest park. What is it, Jack?
That is Six Flags Qiddiya City in Qiddiya City of Saudi Arabia. It is Six Flags' first venture into the Middle East, and this sort of counts as a 2025 news article because it opened on December 31st, 2025. So like you just made it into the 2025 calendar. So congratulations, Six Flags Qiddiya City. Not only do they open a brand new theme park, they have now the world's tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster in Falcon's Flight. What is Falcon's Flight, you ask? Well, it is the brand new signature roller coaster at Six Flags Qiddiya City, reaching a top speed of 150 miles an hour, has a height of 640 feet, and has 2.6 miles of track. It is an insane coaster, and I definitely recommend you guys check out the POV of that coaster because there are multiple launches on it, and you actually go on top of a mountain, which gives it that 600-foot height. But that drop down over a mountain is something you would see, for lack of a better term, in a roller coaster tycoon video game. In addition to Falcon's Flight, there are a couple other record-breaking rides at this amusement park, including Sekiro Tower, which is the world's tallest freestanding shot tower, about 475 feet tall. They also have Spitfire, which is the tallest inverting triple launch coaster, and Gyrospin is the world's tallest pendulum ride. And Jesse, they even have their own Iron Rattler.
Isn't Iron Rattler at Fiesta Texas?
Rest assured, my Six Flags Fiesta Texas fans, Iron Rattler is still in San Antonio. They just have a different version, and it's actually the world's tallest tilt coaster. And interestingly enough, they're actually building a tilt coaster in Austin. Actually, no, it's already open at Coda Land right next to the Circuit of America. So that's a park that we need to get to at some point so we can test out an actual tilt coaster.
Absolutely. I seen the pictures of this Iron Rattler that's in Saudi Arabia, and man, it definitely stands out.
One thing to note though, Six Flags does not actually own Six Flags Qiddiya City. They are just operating it. But hey, you're using someone else's money to build the theme park of your dreams. I think that's a win-win for Six Flags. And to kind of transition to the final big news story of 2025, it's the Six Flags Cedar Point merger and restructuring. Now, the merger did happen in 2024. In 2025, we started to see little bit of things happen. People in the corporate level got let go. There's been a couple different changes. They're actually now starting to get one unified ticket that we were probably going to talk about in a future episode. But the biggest news to come out of the restructuring between Six Flags and Cedar Fair was that the announcement that they're going to start closing parks. And we saw that last year in our beloved Six Flags America. Now, you and I actually did go to Six Flags America in 2023. What was your favorite memory of the such beloved Six Flags park?
Yeah, I didn't really have a good memory of it. It was some Six Flags are run down. That was beyond rundown. That would seem like it needed to close 20 years ago.
They did have a few good rides there, but do you remember the ride Roar?
Oh yeah, that was beyond the worst roller coaster. That ride, it's a wooden roller coaster, and it moved around so much. By the end of it, I was just happy to be alive.
You could not be more right about Roar. That might be one of the worst roller coasters I've ever ridden. It was a rough ride from start to finish, and we all knew that as soon as we got off that coaster that this park was going to be not that great, considering that was the first ride we rode. There are some good things about Six Flags America in, Superman Ride of Steel, but a 200 plus foot coaster way in the back of the park, if that's the only thing, the only reason people were going to that park, it was about time that Six Flags shut it down. And I do think that there are two close enough parks to the DC Baltimore area in King's Dominion and Busch Gardens Williamsburg that could better serve that market instead of Six Flags America. It just seemed like it was the right thing for Six Flags to let it go. And I think Six Flags can move forward in making their other parks better and not having to deal with Six Flags America anymore. But that'll do it for this week's episode. As always, I'm Jack, that's Jesse, and we will see you on the Lido deck.